What is up, duelists? Super Insane 18 here, and you guys absolutely smashed the like goal that we had for the deck profile, which means we are here with the dedicated combo tutorial for Mermail, so let's go ahead and jump on in. If you guys missed the deck profile, make sure you go and check that out, because at the end I showcase a combo with Neptabyss and any one water monster, but we will not be recapping that in this video. Instead, we will be going to the next combo, which is Neptabyss plus specifically either the Atlantean Dragoons or the Abyss Rhine. The reason it's either or is because you're just going to search the other one that you're missing, and I'll explain that in the combo. Of course, we also need a couple of discards, but those are unimportant. Let's show you guys how the combo works. We will start with the normal summon of the Neptabyss, and utilizing its effect, we can send the Mermail Shadow Squad from our deck to our graveyard, allowing the Neptabyss to add the Rhine. Now again, if you were to have the Rhine instead of the Dragoons, you just add the Dragoons here, and it's the exact same thing. We then, of course, get to use the Shadow Squad effect to special summon out the Abyss Pike from our deck, and utilizing the Abyss Pike effect, we can go ahead and discard the Dragoons to add a level 3. In this case, it is going to be the Deep Sea Minstrel. Dragoons will then be able to activate its effect, allowing us to add our Mullen Glacier, and yes, you guys requested Mullen Glacier combos, so of course, I'm going to bring them to you guys. We can then go ahead and utilize the effect of the Abyss Rhine, tributing itself and the Neptabyss to add the copy of Coelacanth to our hand instead of summoning it, because we actually need to discard it for this combo, otherwise we won't be able to properly utilize the Minstrel. Of course, here we then get to use the Neptabyss effect, reborning out our Shadow Squad, and now we can use that Deep Sea Minstrel, discarding itself and the Coelacanth to the graveyard to look at our opponent's hand and banish a card until the end phase. That means that this combo also plays through something like Nibiru, because we're just going to banish it before they have a chance to use it. Funny enough, that also leaves exactly 5 water monsters in our graveyard, meaning we can just drop the Mullen Glacier and rip 2 additional cards out of our opponent's hand as well. Here we will utilize the effect of the Shadow Squad, discarding whatever card we have left, level modulating the field to level 7. Keep in mind that this Pike is a 7 now because it comes up later in the combo, but we can then take the Shadow Squad and the Mullen Glacier and overlay those into the Abyss Trite, making sure we specifically do it in the extra monster zone. The reason for the extra monster zone is because we need to make sure we have enough room left to resolve our Coelacanth, because on summon of Trite, her effect allows us to reborn a fish, which means we are going to reborn out our Coelacanth since we have not yet used it. With the Coelacanth now on field, utilizing one of our other additional discards, we can use its effect to summon out the Greethus, the Butterfly Fish, and the Pike from our deck as well. And again, this is why we summoned in the extra monster zone, to make sure that we had enough room for all of this. Now, with the Coelacanth, and because this Pike is still a level 7, we can go ahead and overlay both into our copy of Yugioh, meaning that we already have one of our end board pieces, a skill drain on legs. We can utilize the Greethus and the Butterfly Fish to overlay into our copy of Lavirtue Dragon, which is important because utilizing the Lavirtue Dragon effect, we can detach either material to add the Dragoons back to our hand, which we can then use as discard fodder for later on in the combo, netting us an additional search as well. Here we can go ahead and use the Trite to overlay into our copy of Poseidra Abyss, and then taking the Poseidra Abyss and the Lavirtue Dragon, we can link those off into our copy of Marincess Coral Anemone. This will allow us to activate the Poseidra Abyss, discarding that Dragoons to summon 3 from our grave. It is going to be specifically the Greethus, the Butterfly Fish, and then you can do either the Shadow Squad or the Rhine. It just has to be a level 3, and it cannot be the Minstrel because we don't need the additional tuner. That will of course allow us to then use the Dragoons effect, since it was discarded for a Water Monster's effect. That is going to allow us to search our heavy infantry, giving us an additional interruption, which we will explain at the end of the combo. With the Greethus, the Butterfly Fish, and whatever level 3 you summoned back, we can Synchro Summon into our copy of Croco Dragon, which on summon will draw us 2 cards because we used 2 non-tuners, and we're just going to show double Ash Blossom because it does not matter what these 2 cards are, they're just cherry on top here, so yeah, they're really unimportant. We can utilize the Coral Anemone here to reborn out our Greethus, and we have not yet used the Greethus effect to reborn, so we can use the Greethus effect here, reborning out specifically our Neptabyss. This is important because we need a level 1 for later on in the combo, but now we can take the Greethus and the Pike, and we can link those off into our copy of Prima Donna. Now here, because water monsters were sent to the graveyard, we can summon out our Butterfly Fish by discarding a card, does not matter what card, and the reason we're doing that is so that we can use the Coral Anemone and the Butterfly Fish to link into the Mermail King Neptabyss. Now, the reason we're doing this here is just to make sure that the Prima Donna is untargetable in case they have some kind of effect negation, because the next move is to use the Prima Donna, returning the card that we banished way earlier in the combo with the Minstrel, to summon the barrier statue out to our side of the field. Now, keep in mind, if that happened to be Nibiru, the barrier statue hits the field before the Nibiru returns to their hand, meaning that they still cannot Nibiru you because we are now waterlocked. Here, we can go ahead and use the Prima Donna and the level 1 Neptabyss, because Prima Donna is a tuner. That is going to go into our copy of Dragite, and that will end our turn. So, where does that leave us? We have the King Neptabyss, which is protecting all three of these from being targeted, which is a statue lock. Our opponent cannot special summon except waters. We have a pop a card by discarding 2. We have a spell trap negate. We have skill drain on legs. And of course, we still have the Abyss Rhine in the graveyard, which will net us a draw as well as an additional pop because we can send the infantry, and 3 cards left in our hand, so really strong board for your opponent to have to deal with. Combo 2 is going to show you what we can do with a Teus and any one water monster. Does not have to be anything in specific, of course with a few discards as well. Let's show you guys how it works. We will start by special summoning out our Teus by discarding a water monster. That of course allows the Teus to add a level 4 or lower Mermail. We will add the Abyss Rhine because it is always treated as a Mermail monster. We can utilize the Abyss Rhine, tributing itself plus the Teus. This will summon out our copy of Coelacanth from our deck, and then using the Coelacanth plus any one discard, we can summon out our Greethus, our Butterfly Fish, and this time 2 copies of Pike. Here we will utilize the Greethus and one of the Pikes. This is going to synchro into our copy of Monoceros, which Monoceros is of course then going to reborn out our Greethus. We can use the Greethus here and the Butterfly Fish to overlay into our copy of Lavirtue Dragon, and utilizing the Lavirtue Dragon, we can add a monster back to our hand, which I am going to add the Teus. Now, technically speaking, you can add the Abyss Rhine, but the reason I like to go for the Teus is because if for some reason your opponent stops your combo, it leaves the Rhine in the graveyard, meaning you can still use it to draw on your opponent's turn. Realistically, it doesn't matter because you're going to be discarding this card anyway, but it's just a failsafe in case your opponent stops you. From here, we can go ahead and overlay the Monoceros and the Coelacanth into our copy of Abyss Trite, and the Abyss Trite is going to go ahead and reborn out that copy of Pike. Now, we have not used Pike effect yet because it was negated with the effect of the Coelacanth, so we can use the Pike, discarding that water we just added back to add us our copy of Shadow Squad. Here, what we will do is, utilizing the Pike and the Lavirtue Dragon, we are going to link into a copy of Haggard Lizardos. Now, Lizardos is something that if you watch the deck profile, I did not play. Instead, I was playing Typhon, so you're going to swap out the Typhon for this. And that was because before I learned some of these combos, I didn't realize how important this card was. This card is really just here so that you can actually maximize the amount of space that you have. Without it, you're not going to be able to utilize the space as much as you need to. We are going to just use the Lizardos effect, banishing itself and then drawing a card, so that gives us an additional option as well. And then we can overlay the Abyss Trite into our copy of Poseidra. We're going to go ahead and take the Poseidra and the Pike, and we are going to go into our copy of Marincess Coral Anemone and use the Poseidra Abyss to discard the Shadow Squad that we added off the Pike. This means that we are going to be able to reborn out our copies of Greethus, Butterfly Fish, and any level 3. Let's go ahead and do the Rhine here. Because we want to make sure that the Shadow Squad remains in the graveyard to activate its effect because it was discarded. This is of course going to allow us to summon out our copy of Neptabyss. With the Neptabyss now on field, we can utilize the Neptabyss effect, sending the copy of Dragoons from our deck to our graveyard, adding us another copy of Dragoons, and activating the Dragoons to add us our copy of Deep Sea Minstrel. Now, it is a little late in the combo to use Minstrel. It's not going to play around hand traps, but it is important to banish a card for the Prima Donna later on in the combo. So we will utilize the Minstrel, discarding the Dragoons that we have in hand, looking at our opponent's hand and banishing a card, and then of course the Dragoons will activate, adding us a copy of Infantry. Here we will take the Greethus, the Butterfly Fish, and the Abyss Rhine that we have on field, synchroing all 3 into our copy of Croco Dragon, and again, Croco Dragon draws us 2 cards, so we're going to show you guys that these 2 cards do not matter in the slightest. Here we can utilize the effect of the Coral Anemone, reborning out the Grethus, and then we have not yet used the Grethus effect either, so we can go ahead and use that to reborn any of our 4s, does not matter which one, because in theory our opponent still has 4 cards in their hand, and then we can take the Grethus and the level 4 that we have, and we can link those off into our copy of Prima Donna. That will then allow us to activate the effect of Butterfly Fish, summoning it from our graveyard because water monsters were sent, by discarding any card, and then taking the Anemone and the Butterfly Fish, we can link those off into our copy of King Neptabyss. Again, doing this to make sure that our cards can't be targeted. We will then use the Prima Donna, returning their banished card to their hand, summoning out the Barrier Statue, and finally taking the Prima Donna and the Neptabyss, and going into our copy of Dragite. Now, there is an additional step here, because the Prima Donna does have an effect when sent, meaning that we can take our Lizard Dose and just put it back into our extra deck, and that is going to be the combo. So we still have a full hand of 5, with our board being unable to be targeted, with a Spell Trap Negate, a Pop, Barrier Statue Lock, and again the Infantry in hand with the Rhine in our graveyard, to discard it and draw, meaning that our opponent likely won't be able to get out of our Barrier Statue. Combo number 3 leaves us asking the next logical question, which is, if that previous combo was Teus plus any water, what can we do with Teus and a specific water? And the combo that I am choosing to showcase is Teus plus Shadow Squad, because I think that that is probably one of the craziest combos we have. So we will start off the same way as we did in the previous combo. We will summon out the Teus by discarding out the Shadow Squad, and that is going to allow us to activate Shadow Squad as Chainlink 1 and Teus as Chainlink 2. Teus will go ahead and add us our copy of Rhine, while the Shadow Squad summons out the Neptabyss from our deck. Neptabyss can be used to then send our copy of Dragoons and add another copy of Dragoons, triggering the Dragoons that was sent to add us our copy of Minstrel, meaning that this combo does play through interactions because we get the Minstrel early. So we can use the Minstrel sending itself and the Dragoons. This is of course going to rip a card out of our opponent's hand and activate the Dragoons to add us our copy of Mulling Glacia. Here we can go ahead and use the Rhine. It will tribute itself plus the Neptabyss to summon the Super Ancient Deep-Sea King Coelacanth from our deck, and then activate the Neptabyss to reborn out our copy of Dragoons. And of course that leaves exactly 5 waters in our graveyard, meaning we can summon out the Mulling Glacia, ripping 2 additional cards out of our opponent's hand. Next, we'll take the Dragoons and the Teus, and we will link those off into our copy of Haggard Lizardos. And this is just to make room again for the Coelacanth, because we need to make sure that we have enough room to summon the 3 monsters. So we can utilize the Coelacanth plus any of our discards. This is, of course, going to summon out our Grethus, our Butterfly Fish, and our Pike, and once those have been summoned, we can utilize the Lizardos to banish itself and draw a card. The reason we're doing that after the summon is to ensure we don't draw into any of these, because we want to make sure that they're in deck for the summon of the Coelacanth. Next, what we can do is we can take the Grethus and the Pike, we can link those, or rather sync those off into our copy of White Aura Monoceros, and the Monoceros is, as always, going to reborn out our copy of Grethus. Here we can take the Grethus and the Butterfly Fish, overlaying them into our copy of Lavirtue Dragon, and again using the Lavirtue Dragon effect to detach a card and add back specifically the Dragoons to our hand. That way we can utilize it as a discard fodder later. We can take the Monoceros and the Coelacanth, we can go ahead and overlay those into our copy of Abyss Trite, and the Trite is then going to reborn out our copy of Pike. It really does not matter here, we are just going for maximum amount of play. Here we are going to take the Trite and overlay it into our copy of Poseidra, which will immediately get linked off with the Virtue Dragon to summon out our copy of Coral Anemone. That will then allow us to activate the Poseidra Abyss, discarding that Dragoons, allowing us to once again resummon out the Grethus, the Butterfly Fish, and any rank 3 in this case, or level 3 in this case, it is going to be the Squad, because we have not yet used Squad to level modulate our side of the field, and since we were able to send the Dragoons, we can use the Dragoons effect to add us a copy of Heavy Infantry. Here we are going to take the Grethus and the Pike, and we are going to synchro summon those off into our copy of Prima Donna, and then we can utilize the effect of the Shadow Squad, discarding any card, does not matter what, to level modulate everything on our side of the field to a level 7. That's important because the Butterfly Fish is now a level 7, which we can use later on in the combo. Here we will utilize the effect of the Shadow Squad, or not the effect, but rather because the Shadow Squad and Mulling Glacia are now level 7s, we can overlay both into our copy of Yugioh. Next, we are going to utilize the effect of Coral Anemone to reborn back out our Greethus because we have not summoned that back from the graveyard yet. Here, we can use the effect of the Greethus on field to reborn out one of our monsters. In this instance, it is going to be the Neptabyss so that we can use it later as synchro material, but next we can take the Greethus and the Butterfly Fish, which are still level 7s, and that is going to allow us to go into a copy of Chengying. Here we can use the Prima Donna to allow us to summon out our copy of Barrier Statue, and then with the Prince and the Prima Donna, we can go ahead and synchro into our copy of Dragite. Water monsters were sent to the graveyard, meaning we can go ahead and summon back out our Butterfly Fish by discarding any card, and utilizing the Butterfly Fish and the Coral Anemone, we can go ahead and link into our copy of King Neptabyss, leaving our field like this. And this is a little bit different than the Croco-Dragon lines. You have less cards in your hand, but you have additional interruptions because the Chengying is going to be able to banish cards from your opponent whenever you end up using the graveyard effect of the Abyss Rhine, as well as all of the other effects that you had previously. Obviously, your Spell Trap Negate, the Statue Lock, the Skill Drain on legs, and yeah, really insane board. This next combo is going to showcase what you can do with a copy of Pike and any water monster, so let's show you guys how it is done. We will start off by the normal summon of Mermail Abyss Pike, activating its effect on summon to send any water monster. That is of course going to allow us to add a level 3, in this case the Abyss Rhine. With the Abyss Rhine in hand, we can use her effect, tributing itself and the Pike, to summon out our copy of Super Ancient Deep Sea King Coelacanth. And with the Coelacanth effect, we can utilize any discard to summon out our copy of Greethus, Butterfly Fish, and Pike from our deck to our side of the field. With the Greethus and the Pike, we will go ahead and perform a Synchro Summon into our copy of Monoceros, which is going to reborn out the Greethus. Now, things are going to change a little bit here. We will utilize the Greethus to reborn out our copy of Rhine, and the reason for that is because we actually need to make a level 9 Synchro pretty early in this combo. Using the Greethus, the Fish, and the Rhine, we can go ahead and summon out our copy of Trishula, and utilize the Trishula effect to banish a card from our opponent's hand. This is very important for the Prima Donna later in the combo. With the Monoceros and the Coelacanth, we can overlay into our copy of Trite, utilizing the Trite effect to then special summon out our Pike from our graveyard, and then we can overlay the Trite into our copy of Poseidra Abyss. With the Poseidra and the Trishula, we will perform a Link Summon into our copy of Marincess Coral Anemone, and with the Poseidra effect discarding another card, we can then reborn out our level 3s with the Croco-Dragon, the Butterfly Fish, and the Abyss Rhine, and we can then perform another Synchro 9. With the Greethus, the Butterfly Fish, and the Abyss Rhine, we are going to go ahead and summon out our copy of Croco-Dragon, utilizing its effect to draw an additional 2 cards. Again, completely random cards, do not matter, but that's because we used 2 non-tuners. Here we are going to utilize the effect of the Coral Anemone. That is going to reborn out our copy of Greethus, and then we can use the Greethus and the Pike to synchro off into our copy of Prima Donna. Here, the Prima Donna is then going to summon out our Barrier Statue by returning the card banished off the Trishula, and finally we can link off the Donna with the Coral Anemone to go into our copy of Neptabyss. That is going to end our board with the Croco-Dragon Pop, the Barrier Statue with the targeting protection, and of course we still have multiple cards in hand with the Rhine for a draw as well. Now here is a little bit of a split line of play. We have rewound the board to the point before we make the Prima Donna, because what we are actually going to do is, using the Greethus and the Pike, we will still make the Prima Donna. However, because water monsters were sent to the graveyard, we can discard any 1 card and summon out our copy of Butterfly Fish. Now this can get us the King Neptabyss without needing to get rid of our Prima Donna, or we can do something a little bit cooler for additional interruption as well. We will of course use the Prima Donna to get our copy of Barrier Statue, and now we have a choice. We can make the King Neptabyss with these 2 and keep our Prima Donna, which doesn't really do anything, or if we are not worried about the targeting protection, we can take the Prima Donna and the Butterfly Fish, synchroing both off into our copy of Chengying, which will act as an additional interruption when we use the Abyss Rhine in our graveyard, giving us a pop, a banish, and the Statue Lock with a couple of cards in hand as well, and the draw off of the Abyss Rhine as well. And for the 5th and final combo of today's video, in theme where we just showed you the Pike plus any 1 water, we will now show you Pike plus a relevant water. In this case, it is going to be the Dragoons, let's go ahead and show you how that works. You start with the normal summon of the Pike and utilizing its effect, sending the Dragoons to add a level 3. In this case, it is going to be the Rhine, and then the Dragoons can activate adding a Sea Serpent. We are going to add the Shadow Squad. We can utilize the Rhine, tributing itself and the Shadow Squad. This is going to summon out the Coelacanth and then activate the Shadow Squad effect to summon out our copy of Neptabyss. Here the Neptabyss can use its effect, sending the Dragoons and adding the Dragoons. Of course, then activating the Dragoons effect to add us our copy of Minstrel. Now we can actually Minstrel here, discarding itself and the Dragoons, looking at our opponent's hand, banishing a card, meaning we can once again play through interactions, and then we get the Dragoons effect as well to add us our copy of Poseidra. Now we only have 2 spots left, we need at least 3, so again we will take the Pike and the Neptabyss and link those off into our Haggard Lizardos just to open up some space, to then use the Coelacanth, discarding the Poseidra, summoning out our copy of Grethus, Butterflyfish, and Pike. With the important summons out of the way, we can use the Haggard Lizardos effect, banishing itself to draw any card, just to get it out of the way again. Using the Grethus and the Pike, we will go ahead and go into our copy of Monoceros, which the Monoceros is then going to allow us to reborn out our Grethus. Here we can take the White Aura Monoceros and the Coelacanth, overlaying both into our copy of Abyss Trite, and utilizing the Abyss Trite, we can summon back a level 4, in this case, Pike. Does not matter which level 4, just a level 4. Now, before we get rid of this Grethus, we actually want to use its effect to reborn out our copy of Deep Sea Minstrel, because we need it as a tuner later on in the combo, so we can then take the Grethus and the Butterflyfish, overlaying them into our Lavirtue Dragon, and utilizing the Lavirtue Dragon effect to then add back our Dragoons from our graveyard to our hand for additional discard later. Now, taking the Minstrel and the Pike, we can go ahead and synchro those off into our copy of Deep Sea Prima Donna. Now, with the Prima Donna on field, we can actually summon our Barrier statue early, which is exactly what we are going to do. We can then take the Trite and overlay it into our copy of Poseidra Abyss, and utilizing the Poseidra Abyss and the Lavirtue Dragon, we can go ahead and go into our Marincess Coral Anemone. That, of course, is going to allow the Poseidra Abyss to go off. We will discard the Dragoons, summoning back out our level 3s. It's going to be the Grethus, the Butterflyfish, and you can do either the Squad or the Rhine. It does not matter which one. Here, the Dragoons is going to be able to activate its effect, adding us our copy of Neptabyss, and then we can take all of our level 3s and synchro those off into the copy of Croco Dragon. Croco Dragon will then draw us 2 additional cards, again just showing that those cards do not matter at all, because the next play is going to be utilizing the Coral Anemone to summon back out our copy of Neptabyss. With the Neptabyss now on the field, we can go ahead and synchro off the Prima Donna with the Neptabyss into our copy of Dragite, and now we can do a little bit of chain blocking. We will use Chainlink 1 as the Butterflyfish to resummon itself, and Chainlink 2 as the Prima Donna to recycle our Haggard Lizardos, discarding a card to summon out the Butterflyfish, and with the Butterflyfish and the Coral Anemone, we can go ahead and summon out our King Neptabyss. Now, we have 6 cards in our hand, so we are technically ahead on advantage, and we have the same board that we've been ending with, although it is 1 more interruption than normal, because the Neptabyss, when discarded off of either the Croco Dragon or the Abyss Rhine, wherever she is, can actually then reborn out our copy of Poseidra that we pitched earlier. Poseidra then, of course, on summoning, bouncing a card by sending the Dragoons adding the Infantry acting as an additional pop, so just a little bit more layered interruption as well, with a plus of cards in hand. And there you guys have it. Believe it or not, we have still only just scratched the surface of the combos that this deck can have, so we are going to set another like goal. If we can get this video to 200 likes, I will do another dedicated combo video showing you guys how to play this deck with the interruption of hand traps from your opponent, because it actually can play through them pretty well, including Droll and Lockbird. So again, 200 likes will get us there. You guys know the deal. If you like the video, make sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, like, comment, and share with your friends. As always, don't forget to check out the channel sponsor Dueling Guard. Using my code INSANE18 or the link in the description down below, you can get a discount on your order, as well as help to support the channel so that I can continue bringing you some amazing content. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.